Yo, what's good everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be breaking down this Week 6 Thursday Night Football Draftkings Showdown between the Chicago Bears and the Washington Commanders. What I'm going to do is go through a couple of my favorite captain plays, some of my favorite flex plays, and then we'll wrap up the video taking a look back at Week 5 and the offensive snap counts for both teams. With that being said, let's dive into my spreadsheet here. And like we always do, we're going to kick things off here in the top left-hand corner with those Vegas odds. Folks, this game should be quite the barn burner. We got Washington heading into Chicago there. Money line right now is minus 110, so it's an even split, but the Commanders are technically 1-point favorites. And we got an over-under there of 38 points. Not projecting to be the most fun or interesting game. And then I got those Showdown stats from 2021 listed behind me. Let me pop on over to this other spreadsheet here so you can read those a little more clearly. If you want to pause the video and read through those or even take a screenshot, feel free to do that. Alright, now we're going to dive into some of my favorite plays here for this Showdown slate. And like we always do, we're going to kick it off with a couple of captains. For those of you who are new to this channel or at least new to these Showdown videos, what I always do is list out a captain from both sides of this game. So with that being said, on the Bears side of things here, I like David Montgomery. He returned from injury last week and got right back to his RB1 role in this offense. Played 72% of the offensive snaps and had 16 touches in that game against Minnesota, compared to Khalil Herbert, who just had 4. I know Khalil Herbert plays well when he does get a lot of opportunity, but for whatever reason, Chicago doesn't want to give him all that many touches when David Montgomery is on the field. Now, Washington has been pretty good against running backs this year, but Chicago wants to run the ball more than any other team in the NFL, and even if they do get behind in this game, Montgomery has seen about a 16% target share this year, so he'll be involved in all aspects of the game. Now, on the Washington side of things here, I like Curtis Samuel in the captain spot, but I do believe there's a few different routes that we could go. I think Carson Wentz is a captain consideration, Terry McLaurin, and you can even see there I have one of the kickers for the Chicago Bears listed as a captain consideration as well. Very rarely you're going to see me do that, but this might be one of those slates where that does make sense. I'll talk about that later, but I do like Curtis Samuel here for the Commanders. Been the most consistent fantasy football player on this offense all year long. He's actually 11th in targets, 6th in receptions, 10th in yards after the catch, and 19th in points per game across the NFL. Not bad at all, especially considering the price here at 12.3. He could be a lot more expensive in my opinion. Plus, he's going to have the best matchup in the slot here against slot cornerback Kyler Gordon, who's allowed a 74% catch rate this season, which is not very good. Now, moving into some of my favorite flex plays here, we're going to kick it off there with actually both quarterbacks, Carson Wentz and Justin Fields. Not my favorite plays week in and week out. I probably wouldn't even play Justin Fields if it weren't for a showdown, but I'll talk about that here in just a minute. Carson Wentz is actually a captain consideration, like I said. He's been a true boom-bust type of player this year, but does have a really nice ceiling, and we've already seen that this year. He's actually scored 26-plus Draftkings points in 3 of 5 games this year. The other 2, he scored less than 10 Draftkings points. So that is the epitome of boom bust, but yeah, being that it is a showdown slate, I definitely think he's in play. Now, barring some miracle to where Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears start throwing the ball 40-plus times per game, I don't foresee myself rostering Justin Fields in DFS the remainder of the season, but being that this could be a pretty gross game and showdown slate at that, I do think he's in consideration. Now, he's also very expensive here at $10,000 for a guy who's been flat out bad statistically this year. Really what you're hoping for is that Justin Fields runs the ball a lot in this game and maybe connects on a few deep passes to someone like St. Brown or Darnell Mooney. For what it's worth, the Commanders have not been the best at stopping the pass this year, ranking 29th overall in pass DVOA, and have allowed the 11th most points per game to opposing quarterbacks. Again, I don't know if those stats mean anything, being that the Bears just want to run the ball, but being that it is a showdown, I do believe that Fields is in play. Not crazy to think that maybe he scores a rushing touchdown in this game and gets in the optimal lineup build. I then got Terry McLaurin there of the Washington Commanders, maybe the most talented player on the field in this game, but hasn't been fantastic this year. You could probably blame that on the quarterback play, but guys like Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson, and even last week, Dyami Brown had himself a good game. Terry McLaurin usually sees the number one opposing cornerback, and that could be part of the reason he hasn't played well this year. That's not going to change here this week. I do believe he's a captain consideration considering the talent that he has and the ceiling games we've seen in the past, but he's also going to match up against Jalen Johnson in this matchup here, who is a very solid cornerback for the Chicago Bears. But if we just look at McLaurin's numbers here, they are pretty good outside of the fact he hasn't racked up a bunch of fantasy points. If you can see there in the notes, he's 8th in unrealized air yards, 3rd in deep targets, and he's actually 1st in routes run in the NFL. So he's on the field, he's getting the deep looks, and I do believe he's got to have a big game here sooner than later. Not entirely sure it will be this week, but again, being that it is a showdown, I absolutely think he's in play. Next, we got Darnell Mooney there of the Chicago Bears, and I'll probably sound like a broken record by the time I get done with this video, but hey, the Chicago Bears do not want to throw the ball. They simply want to run it as much as possible. But I got to talk about a couple of wide receivers here for the Chicago Bears. Darnell Mooney is the number one wide receiver in this offense. Now, he's not been great statistically this year, just 10 receptions through 5 weeks. That is absolutely abysmal, but largely due to the game script and game calling that they're getting from their offensive coordinators. What I will say is he has seen an average depth of target around 12 yards, so I don't mind that, and has seen about 41% of the team's air yards. So, we're basically looking for 1 or 2 big plays in this game. Maybe he finds the end zone and smashes his value, but again, I had to talk about a couple of pass catchers here for the Bears. I then got Brian Robinson there of the Washington Commanders. Played in his first NFL game last week after returning from injury where he got shot this offseason. Good to see him back on the field. Now he only played about 29% of the offensive snaps. I think you'll see that steadily increase going forward. Again, it was his first NFL game. They don't want him on the field having a bunch of blocks, playing 80% of the offensive snaps, and not only his first NFL career game, but after returning from injury, because he did see 75% of the running back carries in this game, so Washington clearly wants to get him the ball. Now, if you foresee Washington trailing in this game, I do think McKissick could be a good play. If you want to get off both of those guys and go contrarian, you could go with Antonio Gibson. I don't think he's going to be very popular, and you'll see why at the end of this video when we get to the Week 5 snap and carry counts. We then got Equanimeous St. Brown there of the Chicago Bears, older brother of Amon-Ra St. Brown, not quite as talented, but a good price here at $4,800. He has played about 79% of the offensive snaps this year, so getting on the field has not been a question. He's also seen about a 15.5% target share in this offense, but again, Chicago really doesn't throw all that much. And that's led to just 6 receptions for St. Brown through 5 weeks, which is obviously not very good. But he does have a good matchup here against these Washington cornerbacks, who again ranked 29th overall in pass DVOA this season. And he just needs 1 or 2 big plays to probably meet value, especially at that price. Now, I mentioned this earlier. It is very, very rare you're ever going to hear me advocate for a kicker in the captain spot. But it just might make sense here this week, and we actually saw that pay off earlier this year with Graham Gano of the New York Giants. I think it could make sense here again, especially with a low implied total of 38 points. Santos does have the upside to where it could pay off. He's coming off of games where he racked up 14 and 15 Draftkings points. Last week, he hit 2 field goals from 50-plus yards. If he does that 3 times in this game, that's 15 Draftkings points right away. So at $4,400 here, I don't mind him at all. I do expect him to be popular and probably pretty popular throughout my lineups as well. Now, I do want to mention that I think Joey Sly, the Washington Commanders kicker, is viable in this showdown as well. Washington has trailed quite a bit this year in games to where they haven't kicked a bunch, but this very well could be a game where they get out to an early lead and lean on their kicker a little bit more in this game. I also think that both defenses are in play in this showdown as well. I have the Bears listed there, but if you wanted to go with the Commanders defense against this Bears offense, who have not scored a lot of points this year, Justin Fields is not afraid to take sacks or turn the ball over, I absolutely think that's in play. But I kind of like the Chicago Bears defense here playing at home against this Washington offensive line that has been horrible this year. They've allowed a top 5 pressure rate and the 2nd most sacks in the NFL. On top of that, this offense has turned the ball over 8 times in 5 games. And then to wrap up this spreadsheet here, I got a dart throw on the Washington side of things with Cam Sims. I think a lot of people are going to be looking for Dyami Brown as their dart throw after scoring 2 touchdowns last week, but Sims actually played more offensive snaps and ran more routes than Dyami Brown last week. You'll see that here in just a minute. So I kind of like pivoting off of that, especially at this price of $1,400. We legit need one big play in order for him to meet value. And then to wrap up this video here, we're going to take a look back to the Week 5 offensive snap counts for both of these teams to show you who is and isn't playing all that much. We'll start with the Chicago Bears here, and again, not a lot going on with this offense in general, but you get a better idea here of which wide receivers are on the field, who's seeing targets in an offense that doesn't throw all that much, and again, just David Montgomery completely taking over as the #1 running back last week. There's not a lot to love about the Chicago Bears, but here's how they played last week, and you can see who was on the field quite a bit. And then we got the Week 5 snap counts here for the Washington Commanders. Again, I want to point out here, you can see Cam Sims was on the field more and ran more routes than Dyami Brown, but you can see Dyami Brown turned 3 of his targets into 2 touchdowns, and I think people are going to look at that and go, yep, he's got that upside that we're looking for, and he very well could score again this week. I don't want to say he's going to put up a 0 because he obviously made the most of his opportunity last week, but I like to see that Cam Sims was on the field quite a bit as well and is probably going to fly under the radar. Alright everyone, that is going to wrap up this video here for today. As always, thank you all for taking the time out of your day to watch the content here on this channel. If you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. Let's have ourselves a great day here, folks. Let's win some money on this Thursday night showdown. In the meantime, I'm out of here.